Recently, we learned that President Joe Biden is planning to change the definition of a firearm. Now, on its surface, this regulation seems to be aimed at controlling the self-made weapons industry, not the least of which is 3D printed guns. However, I had a chance to sit down with Cody Wilson, the creator of the first 3D printed gun, and learn that there might be more going on behind the scenes. It's important to note that this is an incredibly controversial issue, and where one falls on one side of the argument or the other could depend heavily on their existing beliefs.
So the market as it exists today really revolves around these two types. This one has no pocket milling done, and so even though it looks quite complicated and finished, it's not considered a gun, it's not considered finished, and you can send it in the mail. This one has had the pocket made, and it is a gun. This one's considered a gun. So the two may not seem much different, but this one's, the ATF would say this is a firearm and this is not.
Underneath the old definition of a firearm, gun makers are allowed to buy so-called 80% receivers, or firearms that are 80% complete, and make changes to them without registering them as a firearm. This led to an entire industry of entrepreneurs that sold these 80% complete receivers with kits specifically designed to complete them the rest of the way. The proposed regulation closes that seeming loophole and makes it so that you really have to file for a serial number on your weapon if it's pretty much anywhere along the way towards becoming a weapon. In fact, some people, including Cody Wilson, believe you could fall suspect underneath this regulation if you had a weapon that was even 1% complete. In other words, a nearly raw piece of aluminum. The solution that Cody Wilson came up with to this so-called problem, that not everyone agrees is a problem, is that he created what he calls a 0%er gun. Specifically, what he did was he created a piece of software that can take a raw piece of aluminum and turn it into a firearm.
The 0% project is about giving you a new set of code for the machine, the Ghost Gunner 3 machine, a new set of fixtures, and then helping you go from nothing, from the block of aluminum, from a stock part, all right? And so it's the software and it's the block of aluminum. Together, what have you done? You've turned the block into the core component of the receiver again.
What do you hope the 0%er will accomplish?
I think teaching people that it truly is possible, just like we did with 3D printing, it's like the same thing. You can go from zero, you can go from the block. This should instill some confidence in a certain, let's say, rebellious type of personality.
While Wilson argues the benefits of free and open access to firearms outweigh the risks are rising while the benefits seem to be staying the same. In fact, from January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2020, the number of privately made firearms recovered from potential crime scenes increased 400% to 8,712 last year, according to ATF data, with a total of 23,906 suspected privately made firearms recovered from potential crime scenes over that same time. Of note, 325 of those crime scenes were either murders or attempted murders.
If Wilson is correct, regulators could actually be forced to clamp down on anyone who sells any of the raw materials. If you take a look at what he's starting with, it is a pure, uncut, unaltered piece of aluminum, and 3.5 to 4 hours later, you have a firearm. The big play here, though, again, this is assuming Cody Wilson's interpretation of the regulation, is that the aluminum industry itself could fall in the crosshairs of these regulators, because he's created software that lets you turn raw aluminum into a firearm. The easiest way to clamp down on that would be to regulate the sale of raw aluminum altogether. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry annually, and anyone, obviously, from making windowsills to car parts could potentially be seen in the sights of this regulation. Does that mean that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms of the United States is going to be sending out cease and desist to aluminum manufacturers and purchasers that don't have a firearms license? I really don't think so. What's really interesting about what Cody did is he's shown sort of the true limits to which gun makers are willing to go in order to keep their product in their customers' hands, controversial though it may be.